So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we have a really exciting and important announcement to make about an important partnership that has come together and will continue to come together over the coming year. It takes a lot of people to make these partnerships work. So I want to begin by recognizing the people that are standing here with me, many of the community partners that have made it happen. First of all, I want to recognize Councilwoman Mary Kay Harris and Councilwoman Nerva La Fortune. They've been great partners in developing, supporting, and getting this project to where we are today. So thank you, Councilwoman. I also want to recognize Stephen Flores. He's the Managing Director at Rhode Island Legal Services. So great to have you here, Stephen. I want to recognize Christopher Sami Cotundo. Did I butcher the name?
We should have practiced that before.
How do you say it last name?
Sami Rotunda.
Sami Rotunda. He's the interim director at DARE, so thank you very much for your partnership on this. Brenda Clements, someone who I've known for a long time and really one of the leading advocates for housing in the state. The executive director of Housing Works for Rhode Island. Great to have you here. Brenda. We also have a couple other members. We have Eliza Borenberg, old colleague of mine, and still a dear friend, director of the Pro Bono and Community Partnerships Program at Roger Williams University. We also have a staff attorney from the Rhode Island Center of Justice, Jordan Mickman, who's with us here today. Where are you at, Jordan? So thank you to all of our partners, and thank you for everyone who's here. As I mentioned, we're here today to announce a new and our latest investment from the American Rescue Plan, the funds that have come from the federal government and allow us to invest in our community. This is a program for low-income Providence residents facing or at risk of eviction. And I'm very proud to be here today with all of our partners, particularly with Rhode Island Legal Services. It's going to be leading the charge, and with all the partners, all the additional partners with this work. It's becoming more and more apparent that we're in the midst of a severe housing crisis. Not only here in Providence, but frankly, almost everywhere in the United States. This is causing many of our neighbors here in Providence to face the possibility of either being priced out of our community or facing eviction and even homelessness in the process. With inflation and rising rents, that possibility is becoming ever more present and greater by the moment. And that's why I'm especially happy to be able to introduce this program, which builds on our past success with Rhode Island Legal Services in providing eviction defense services. Now I want to note, many years ago, beginning in 2003, I was a staff attorney at Rhode Island Legal Services. And I saw firsthand the kind of impact that having an attorney with you at court versus not having an attorney with you at court can have. Every day, attorneys at Legal Services are the difference between families staying in their apartment or being able to comfortably transition to a new apartment, as opposed to having all their stuff thrown out on the street and potentially sleeping in a shelter. That's the work that Legal Services does every year. And I also remember when I worked at Legal Services, I lived at 216 Carpenter Street. And this is back in I had just finished living at 216 Carpenter Street. This is in the late 1990s, early 2000s. The West End was in the midst of its conversion into the West Side, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of investment that was beginning to come to Carpenter Street. And I remember one of my favorite things is I would sit outside in the stoop and just read and kind of take in the neighborhood. And so I got to know the kids of the family next door. I got to know them personally. I got to know their parents. And it was very apparent that they lived a very difficult life. They lived in some form of extreme poverty, and oftentimes didn't have enough to eat. So I always felt just this close connection to that family because we were neighbors and we got to know each other. Many years later, after I finished law school and came back to work at Rhode Island Legal Services, lo and behold, they were my clients. They were my clients who had been priced out of the neighborhood, were facing eviction and were facing the prospect of moving their entire family into a shelter. I remember diving into this work like I hadn't with any other, with a great deal of passion. Unfortunately, they did lose their house, but I was able to secure them several weeks' time so that they didn't have to spend that time in the shelter. So I've kept up with this family. I see them around every once in a while, and we still talk about that experience of knowing each other and the experience when I represented them in court. And to this day, they tell me that they're incredibly appreciative because their life could have definitely gone south had they lost all their stuff, had to start from scratch, and live in a shelter. This is just one microcosm of everything they were seeing right now. That family being displaced is happening throughout our city right now. And yes, we can, we must, and we are doing a lot to provide more housing so that families can stay in our city. But unfortunately, many families do face eviction. When they do face eviction, we need to provide the support for these families so that they don't hit that kind of rock bottom that makes it almost impossible for them to dig themselves out of. That's exactly what today's investment in this program is going to provide. Using these ARPA dollars, low-income tenants who are facing eviction will be able to get free legal assistance from Rhode Island Legal Services and their community partners. This legal help could include being matched with an attorney or a law student. It'll entail this representation, finding out-of-court settlements if necessary, or legal representation during the trials for these tenants. And the program that we're announcing today is also going to support bilingual outreach into the community through DARE's tenant and homeowner assistance to ensure that people are aware of these resources. In addition to this, we'll also get critical information and data that will be put together by Housing Works Rhode Island from Roger Williams University, who's going to oversee data analysis, evaluation, and reporting components of this program. I thank each of our partners for working with the city to ensure that our residents are provided with these critical resources in the time of greatest need.